The hidden threat in your medicine cabinet. Every day, thousands of people wake up feeling a little more forgetful than yesterday. Keys misplaced, names lost on the tip of the tongue, entire conversations slipping away like smoke. Most chalk it up to aging. But what if the culprit isn't age at all? What if it's sitting quietly in your bathroom cabinet? For decades, we've trusted tiny pills to help us sleep, calm anxiety, ease allergies, or keep our hearts healthy. They're sold as harmless, routine, even essential. But mounting research is now exposing a chilling truth. Many of these same medications may actually be rewiring the brain, accelerating memory decline, and in some cases, doubling the risk of dementia. Doctors prescribe them by the millions, often without warning patients about the hidden cost. And while pharmaceutical companies rake in billions, families are left wondering why their loved ones seem to fade before their time. The most frightening part? Most people taking these drugs have no idea they're at risk. Today, we'll uncover the most dangerous medications linked to rapid memory loss, exploring not only how they work, but also what safer alternatives exist. Because memory is more than just recall, it's identity, independence, and connection. Lose that, and you lose yourself. But let's start at the bottom of the list with a drug almost everyone has in their home right now. It's cheap, pink, and sold over the counter. And yet, inside your brain, it may be shutting down the very chemical you need to hold on to your memories. If you've ever struggled with allergies, a cold, or restless nights, chances are you've reached for that little pink capsule, diphenhydramine, better known as Benadryl. It's cheap, it's over the counter, and it's been trusted for generations. Millions keep it tucked away in their nightstand, convinced it's harmless. But inside your brain, something very different is happening. Diphenhydramine belongs to a class of drugs called anticholinergics, medications that block a key chemical messenger known as acetylcholine. This neurotransmitter is like the brain's spark plug. It allows your neurons to form new memories, stay alert, and communicate clearly. Now, here's the catch. As we age, our natural levels of acetylcholine already decline. Seniors rely on every drop they have left, and when a drug like diphenhydramine blocks it, the effect can be devastating. Memory formation slows down, concentration weakens. The brain's most vulnerable regions, like the hippocampus, begin to falter. One large study in the Journal of Geriatric Cognitive Health found that seniors who regularly used anticholinergic drugs like diphenhydramine faced a 54% higher risk of developing dementia compared to those who avoided them. That's not a small increase. That's 1 in 2. And the danger is often hidden in plain sight. Many medications labeled PM, nighttime, or allergy relief are simply diphenhydramine in disguise. You might think you're just treating insomnia or soothing a runny nose, but with every pill, your brain is paying a price. So, what can you do instead? Fortunately, there are safer alternatives. For allergies, non-sedating options like loratadine, Claritin, or cetirizine, Zyrtec, don't cross into the brain and carry far less cognitive risk. For sleep, lifestyle changes like consistent bedtime routines and avoiding screens at night are more effective long-term than sedating pills. The bottom line, never assume over-the-counter means safe, because sometimes the drugs we trust most are the ones quietly stealing our sharpness. And speaking of drugs that seem harmless, let's move to number 8, a medication millions take daily for heartburn and acid reflux, not realizing it may be starving their brains of a nutrient essential for memory. Heartburn, acid reflux, indigestion, we've all felt the burn. And for millions, the answer seems simple: proton pump inhibitors, or PPEs. These drugs, sold under brand names like Prilosec, Nexium, and Prevacid, are among the most prescribed medications in the world. Doctors tell patients to stay on them for months, sometimes even decades, with little warning of the long-term risks. On the surface, they seem like a blessing. They shut down the stomach's acid pumps, bringing relief almost instantly. But here's what most people don't realize. Stomach acid isn't just a nuisance. It's a critical part of digestion. Without it, Your body can't properly absorb nutrients, especially vitamin B12, which plays a vital role in memory, focus, and mood. When B12 levels drop, neurons begin to misfire. Electrical signals that should travel smoothly between brain cells start to stumble, leading to confusion, brain fog, and forgetfulness. Over time, this deficiency can mimic the early stages of dementia. A massive study published in JAMA Neurology followed more than 73,000 adults over the age of 75. The results were alarming. Those who regularly used PPIs had a 44% increased risk of developing dementia compared to non-users. And that's not all. Other research has linked long-term PPI use to a buildup of amyloid beta plaques, the same toxic proteins that are hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. The problem is, patients are rarely told any of this. They're told the pills are safe. They're refilled again and again, and the creeping decline is blamed on old age. But the good news? Safer alternatives exist. H2 blockers like famotidine, sold as Pepcid, reduce acid without the same impact on cognition. And natural remedies like deglycyrrhizated licorice can soothe the stomach lining without interfering with nutrient absorption. So, if you or someone you love has been popping acid reducers for years, it's worth asking a doctor, is this still necessary? Is there a safer way? Because protecting your stomach at the expense of your brain is a trade no one should make. And if you thought acid blockers were concerning, the next drug is even more personal. It's prescribed to millions for bladder control, but inside the brain, it disrupts not just memory, but emotional balance itself. For many seniors, one of the most frustrating daily struggles is bladder control. Frequent trips to the bathroom, sudden urges, the fear of accidents. It's embarrassing and exhausting. So when a doctor prescribes a pill to fix it, most people don't think twice. One of the most common drugs for this is oxybutynin, sold under brand names like Ditropan. On the surface, it seems like a lifesaver. Fewer bathroom trips, more confidence, less worry. But beneath the surface, oxybutynin is doing something far more sinister. Like diphenhydramine, it works by blocking acetylcholine, that same neurotransmitter essential for memory, focus, and learning. But here's the dangerous twist. Oxybutynin crosses the blood-brain barrier with ease, meaning it doesn't just act on the bladder, it directly affects the brain's memory centers. A 2019 study published in the BMJ followed thousands of adults over 65. It found that those who took strong bladder control drugs like oxybutynin for more than a year had a 49% higher risk of developing dementia. That's nearly 1 in 2. The tragedy is that most patients are never told this. They think their fogginess, forgetfulness, or sudden mood swings are just part of aging, when in reality, it's the drug silently interfering with brain chemistry. Stories abound of seniors who begin forgetting appointments, misplacing objects, or struggling to follow conversations, all while believing they're simply getting older. But here's the hopeful part. Newer medications like mirabegron, sold as Mirbitric, work through a completely different mechanism. Instead of blocking acetylcholine, they target bladder receptors without affecting the brain, making them far safer for cognitive health. So the question becomes, is controlling your bladder worth sacrificing your memory and emotional balance? For many, the answer is no, and knowing the risks is the first step to protecting both dignity and clarity. And speaking of widespread medications, the next group is among the most commonly prescribed in the world. They're meant to protect the heart, but they may be slowly starving the brain of the very fuel it needs to stay sharp. Few prescriptions are as common as statins. If you're over 60, chances are you or someone close to you has been told to take them. Sold under names like Lipitor, Zocor, and Crestor, statins are designed to lower cholesterol and protect against heart attacks and strokes. On the surface, that sounds like a miracle. Who wouldn't want to shield their heart from danger? But here's the part most people never hear. Cholesterol isn't just a bad fat clogging arteries. In the brain, cholesterol is a lifeline. Nearly 60% of the brain is made of fat, and cholesterol is essential for building and maintaining the myelin sheath. the protective layer around neurons that helps electrical signals travel quickly and smoothly. When cholesterol is driven too low, the brain starts to struggle. Neurons misfire. Memory falters. Patients describe moments of disorientation, forgetting names, losing their way on familiar roads, or suddenly blanking out during a conversation. A 2023 study in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience tracked seniors over the age of 70 who had been on statins for more than 3 years. The results? They were 26% more likely to develop mild cognitive impairment than those who weren't on the drugs. And those on higher doses saw even more dramatic declines. Now, it's important to note, not all statins are created equal. Some, like pravastatin and rosuvastatin, don't cross the blood-brain barrier as easily and carry less risk of cognitive side effects. Others, like simvastatin, are much more likely to interfere with brain function. So, should you throw away your statins? Not necessarily. For people at high risk of heart disease, the benefits may outweigh the risks. But if you've been on them for years and you've noticed brain fog, confusion, or sudden lapses in memory, it's worth having a serious conversation with your doctor about dose adjustments or safer alternatives. Because protecting your heart should never come at the cost of losing your mind. And if statins raise concern, wait until you hear about the next group of drugs. They're prescribed by the millions for anxiety and sleep. But what starts as calm relief can quietly turn into a chemical trap for the brain. When anxiety spikes or sleep won't come, many people are handed what feels like a magic solution: benzodiazepines. You may know them by their brand names: Valium, Xanax, Ativan, Klonopin. They work by boosting the brain's calming chemical, GABA, easing panic and promoting sleep. At first, they seem like a blessing. The mind quiets, the body relaxes, the world feels manageable again. But with time, that calm comes at a cost. Benzodiazepines don't just soothe, they sedate. They slow down the very processes the brain needs to learn, adapt, and store new memories. Long-term users often describe it as living in a fog. Conversations blur, details slip away, emotions feel muted. A 2022 study in the BMJ tracked more than 8,000 seniors over 6 years. The findings were chilling. Those who used benzodiazepines for more than 3 months had a 51% higher risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. The risk was even higher with long-acting versions like diazepam, which linger in fatty tissues, including the brain, for days. And then there's the trap. Once someone has been on benzodiazepines for a while, stopping isn't easy. The brain adapts, becoming dependent on the drug's calming effect. Try to quit suddenly, and symptoms like crushing anxiety, sleepless nights, and even tremors can appear, making the medication feel essential, when in fact, it's the very cause of the decline. The good news: there are safer paths forward. Alternatives like buspirone, a non-sedating anti-anxiety medication, or cognitive behavioral therapy for anxiety and insomnia can restore calm without stealing memory. And for many patients, a slow, carefully supervised taper can free them from the chemical grip of benzodiazepines. Because while peace of mind is priceless, it should never come at the expense of losing your identity piece by piece. And if you think that sounds grim, the next drug might be even worse. It's an older antidepressant that's still prescribed today, not for depression, but for pain and sleep. And yet, it's one of the most powerful memory-blocking medications still in circulation. Decades ago, doctors often prescribed amitriptyline, brand name Elavil, as an antidepressant. Today, it's less common for mood, but it's still widely given for chronic pain, migraines, and insomnia. Many patients see it as a helpful, all-purpose solution. A pill for sleep, for nerve pain, for headaches. But here's what isn't advertised. Amitriptyline is one of the strongest anticholinergic drugs still in use. That means it aggressively blocks acetylcholine, the neurotransmitter the brain depends on to store memories, focus attention, and process information. With every dose, the brain's communication network becomes a little more disrupted. A massive study published in JAMA Internal Medicine followed more than 3,400 older adults over a 10-year period. Those who accumulated high doses of anticholinergic medications, like amitriptyline, were found to have a 54% greater chance of developing dementia. That's not a slight increase. That's more than half again the normal risk. And here's the terrifying part. Many patients have no idea this is happening. They may take a small nightly dose for years, thinking it's harmless. Slowly, imperceptibly, they begin struggling with short-term memory, word-finding problems, or foggy concentration. Loved ones notice the change, but chalk it up to age. In reality, the drug has been eroding their cognitive edge day by day. The tragedy is that safer alternatives often exist. For nerve pain, duloxetine or gabapentin can help without the same memory burden. For sleep, supplements like melatonin or low-dose doxepin carry much lower risk. And for depression, modern medications like sertraline or escitalopram are considered far safer for long-term brain health. Amitriptyline may look like a small, harmless pill, but for the aging brain, it's more like pulling the plug on a power source that's already running low. And if that weren't bad enough, the next drug is even more deceptive. It's prescribed under the guise of being a modern antidepressant, but unlike its siblings, this one carries the same dangerous anticholinergic shadow, making it especially risky for seniors. When people hear the term SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, they usually think safe, modern, gentle. Drugs like sertraline, Zoloft, and escitalopram, Lexapro, are often considered first-line treatments for depression and anxiety, even in older adults. But there's one exception that hides in plain sight: paroxetine, better known as Paxil. Unlike its SSRI cousins, paroxetine has significant anticholinergic properties, meaning it interferes with acetylcholine, the very brain chemical vital for memory and learning. This single difference makes it dramatically more dangerous for seniors. In a 2021 review published in Frontiers in Psychiatry, researchers found that older adults taking paroxetine showed measurable declines in short-term memory, verbal recall, and attention span within just 1 year. Compared to patients on other SSRIs, paroxetine users were 30% more likely to develop early cognitive impairment. What makes it worse is the irony. Paroxetine is often prescribed to improve mood, stabilize emotions, and reduce anxiety. But over time, it can do the opposite, fogging the mind, blunting emotions, and undermining clarity. Patients may think they're managing depression while unknowingly sowing the seeds of cognitive decline. The medical community has taken notice. The American Geriatric Society has placed paroxetine on its official Beers list of medications considered inappropriate for seniors. Yet, it continues to be prescribed, often because doctors see SSRI and assume safety. The fix is clear but urgent. Seniors should avoid paroxetine altogether. Safer SSRIs like sertraline or escitalopram don't carry the same cognitive risks, and natural supports such as B vitamins, especially B12 and B6, can further strengthen mood and memory resilience. Paroxetine may look like progress, but for the aging brain, it's a wolf in sheep's clothing, quietly robbing memory while pretending to heal. And if that wasn't unsettling enough, the next class of drugs is even more disturbing. Originally designed for severe psychiatric illness, they're now quietly being used in nursing homes to manage behavior, with devastating consequences for the mind.